Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
The World According to Elmer is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing top 40 hits from the 60s through the 80s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River. Welcome aboard. We're headed for the World According to Elmer, with hosts Jerry Sorensen and Pat Morrow. Don't worry, you'll enjoy it there. Better buckle in and enjoy the ride. Here come our hosts now.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the World According to Elmer. I'm Jerry Sorensen, Kilo Golf 8, Radio Yankee, and that is our Elmer, Pat Morrow, who is November, Oscar 8. Let's see, now I can't think of anything snappy.
It's November 8, Oscar, Old Quaint Patrick.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, there you go. NAOQP. And glad to have him, too. He's a good guy and gives us a lot of good advice each and every week. If you've never joined us, this is all about ham radio, the greatest hobby on earth. And if you're a regular, welcome back. It's good to have you. Well, Pat, how's your week been?
Oh, I'm regular. That's beside the point. That's beside the point. Thanks for asking. Oh, we're doing all right. It's been a fun week.
This was a bad weekend for Ohio, I think.
It was a horrible week for Ohio. It really was. I was so
We're in
disappointed.
Ohio, folks, in case you're new.
And the Harbaugh brothers single-handedly just about destroyed Ohio. But that's for another show.
Yeah, well, look, it's what everybody's talking about, and at a certain point, you just shut the game off and go turn the radio on.
That's about it.
That's what I did too, because the contest was on. This last weekend was the CWW, so this is the worldwide CQ contest, and you best believe that I was on the bands. I had some interesting calls. I was able to make connection this past weekend with not only folks here in this country, which I didn't spend much time with people in this country because that didn't count for any points. 0 points for somebody else in the United States. But I did talk to Greece. I talked to Germany. I talked to Albany. I talked to the Serbian something or other. They have a region now, I guess. It's not like it used to be. Slovenia was one of the countries that I spoke with. So I just pretty much talked all over. Of course, our friends in Canada, but then again, Canada is a daily call from where we live because Pat and I both live in Northeast Ohio. So if you drive 65 miles north of here, you're at Lake Erie, and then all you got to do is swim across the pond and you're in Canada. So Canada is no great call from here. And most of the calls from my station, as far as Canada are concerned, go to Ottawa. And I don't know if that's been your experience, Pat, but up there north of New York State seems to be where most of my
I think my easiest shots are Toronto. I've got a lot of Toronto and around that area.
So really to talk to Canada is kind of like a local call from here, folks. Mexico, that's a fur piece, but then again, Ohio, one of the states that we reach without any difficulty at all is Florida. And so it's only just a little more push. And one of the places on this planet that I've talked to twice now in this year, 2 times in 1 year, and this is an odd place, Pat. I've spoken twice with operators in a place called the Gulf of California. And the Gulf of California is south of California. In fact, it's off of Mexico, and it's over in the Pacific Ocean. And for some reason, there just are some nights where my station in Massillon, Ohio, seems to connect up with the Gulf of California. And so I've spoken to 2 operators just in that little teeny tiny area off of Mexico. And so what are the odds of that? I did have a call to Colombia, and I had bought a piece of ham gear when I first started in ham radio from a guy in Colombia. And what was really funny is I didn't consider when I bought from him the fact that customs was going to tear my thing stuff apart. So
Oops.
when the amplifier got here that I bought, it had been disassembled. Everything had been taken apart in it, and it just was a mess. They just took everything and stuffed it back in the box and sent it on to me. So a word of warning for new hams out there. If you buy gear from out of the country, your gear is going to be inspected on the way into the United States. We don't seem to stop anybody that wants to come in, but a ham gear, they will stop and they will take it apart. I think they're ham operators. I think he just took it home. Somebody took it home and used it and then brought it back. Well, I'm losing Pat's interest here. So
No, I'm just sharing this to, I'm just sharing our show out to all the Facebook groups. So.
Yeah, see, he's not looking. So what I'm doing.
I'm looking.
I got some cards this week. I picked out 4 that I really liked, and I thought I'd share them with you. First of all, shame on this guy. This is K3TW, and he's this is a Florida contesting group, and he sent me his card. Of course, we're up here in the miserable cold, and we've had snow now for 3 days in a row here in Ohio. So what's he send me? He sends me a palm tree and the ocean and the sun going down. Smart Alec.
That's about
Thank you
it.
very much for the card, even if it is from Florida. Now look at this one, Pat. This is from November 3, Radio Tango. Do you suppose he owns one of those, or do you think that's just his card?
You know, I'll bet he owns that, or probably has a lease on it. I know several pilots just in this area that do the same thing that are hams. WHCXO.
Yeah.
He owns a whole repeater network up here. He flies, and he's got a jet like that.
Well, this is a Learjet.
Yeah, he's got
a lot
one.
of money.
This dude's got it.
Ham radio, though, this is not a cheap hobby either, but it's not nearly so expensive as flying an airplane. An airplane is like a boat. An airplane is a money trap. The plane that I fly, I rent, so I know what they cost. I don't know whether I showed this one this last week or not, but this was from a prior contest and it just came in. This is not my longest CW call ever, trust me. This call is from Dayton, Ohio. But the significance of this card is they host the Hamvention every year that you like to go to, Pat. And I see that the dates on the Hamvention are May 20th through the 22nd in 2022. And Larry Plummer, W6LVP, sent this beautiful card. This actually was a sideband contact, and this is out to California. And look at that! Look at his home. They renovated what was, I think, at one time from its appearance a railroad station, and so again, we're talking some money to do that kind of thing. There are some historical houses here in Massillon where I live, and my son years ago dated a doctor's daughter, and he blew it, and they didn't wind up married. But at any rate, these people had bought a historical home like that, and they were receiving government money every year to keep it up. And so there's a lot to be said for doing this. This is a very smart thing to do. Now, there's certain things that you have to comply with if you're going to take the government's money, but what the heck? The government's paying for it. Keep the house up. And so there you go. Those are just some interesting cards that came in out of the pack that arrived this week. And so keep those QSL cards coming. Love those things. I love going to the mailbox because of the QSL cards. Back in the day when all I got was bills, I let the wife go get the mail, but now I'm out there first.
Funny how life changes.
It is funny how life changed. Ham radio came into my life and everything changed. Trust me. Well, if you've been out on the bands and you've perused around, you may have run across something called a beacon station. And nobody really explained to me when I first got started, Pat, well, of course, how would it come up? I had no clue what a beacon station was until I ran across one. Now, there are some very famous beacon stations that are more than beacon stations, and one that I'm thinking of in particular is WWV.
Yep.
Now, the significance to somebody like me that is a collector of and a user of antique ham radio gear, the vintage gear, we call it, is you can use beacon stations to set your radio to the proper frequency, because analog dials move off a frequency. It's not like the digital gear that you see today that is smack dab right on frequency. The old digital or the old analog dials like I have, I can literally tune across a frequency. I can tune low, I can tune high, I can tune anywhere in the band on the radios that I have. And so beacon stations were always very useful in the past. Now, the beacon station that I just spoke of, WWV, transmits the time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's right on because it's the one that has the nuclear clock hooked up to it, which loses like what, 1 second every gazillion years or something like that. I mean, yeah, enormously accurate. But beacon stations are of much more use than just that to ham radio operators. Maybe you've never heard a beacon station. If you run across one, usually you'll hear the identifier in CW. So you have to kind of know CW to be able to translate which station that you're listening to. But if you hear a call sign repeated over and over and over and over, or at certain times, chances are you're listening to either a repeater if you're on the VHF band, or if you're down in the HF bands, it could be a repeater, but it's probably a beacon station. So whether you know what beacon stations are or not, we've got a little clip tonight on it. So let's go ahead and play that clip, Pat, and we can check in on beacon stations and what they can mean to you as a ham radio operator.
We will do that.
You're listening to The World According to Elmer, right here on the Crooked River Radio Network, and we'll be right back after this video.
Hams use high frequency, or HF, for worldwide communications, but propagation on these bands can be spotty. Ever wondered where the bands are open to? The International Beacon Network can help you find out. Let's see how it works. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG. Hams use lots of abbreviations, and DX stands for distance. Over time, DX has come to refer to working stations outside one's own country. The HF bands, open to those with general and extra class licenses, can sometimes work over very long distances, even to the far side of the planet. But propagation conditions are highly variable and depend on many factors, including our own star, the sun. Software has been developed and honed over decades that uses solar activity parameters to predict propagation, but even that isn't exact. It's nice to have a way to tell directly what the band openings are, and for the last 21 years, this has been addressed by the International Beacon Network. The Northern California DX Foundation is a very active nonprofit organization composed of DX operators and enthusiasts. They go so far as to fund expeditions to rare locations to put them on the air. These are called, suitably enough, DXpeditions. To address the problem of knowing when the bands are open and to where, the Northern California DX Foundation, along with the International Amateur Radio Union, created the International Beacon Network. Now 21 years old, the Beacon Network consists of 18 stations around the world. Each transmits at a precise time on a precise frequency, and does so on 5 different HF bands. If you listen on these frequencies, you may hear some of the beacons. If you can, you know the band is open to that area, and it might be a good time to call CQDX down in the CW portion of the band, or if the beacon is really strong, call CQDX on single sideband up in the phone portion of the band. Of course, we never transmit on the beacon frequency itself. Every 10 seconds, a beacon station transmits its call sign in CW on the beacon frequency at 100 watts using a vertical antenna. After that, it sends 4 long dashes. The first is done at 100 watts, the second at 10 watts, the third at 1 watt, and the fourth at 100 milliwatts. The beacons are active on 5 bands, 20 meters, 17 meters, 15, 12, and 10 meters. These bands were chosen because at the time of implementation, these bands were very active for very long distances. The network doesn't have beacons on 30 or 40 meters. Let's look at the frequencies. On 20 meters, the beacons broadcast in turn on 14.100 megahertz for 10 seconds. So if you listen there for 3 minutes, all 18 beacon stations will transmit. Let's do that using my little Fifi software-defined radio that allows us to see as well as hear. On the main dial, 14.100 megahertz is here. You can also see it with better band spread up here. Over here is the Northern California DX Foundation website, which states which beacon is transmitting on that frequency. Let's listen to the 4U1UN station at UN headquarters in New York. You can see the actual signal on the waterfall diagram here. Note that the 4 long dashes fade as the power goes down. We can just hear the beacons in Canada, California, and Hawaii. We can do the same thing on 18 megahertz. Let's listen. We hear the station in Canada fairly well, plus the California station. Each beacon transmits first on 14.100 megahertz, then 18.110 megahertz, 21.150 megahertz, 24.930 megahertz, and 28.2 megahertz. Then it goes silent until its turn comes around again. So if you listen on one of these frequencies, you'll hear the beacons in succession. This is the classic beacon network and has been in place successfully for many years. You can tune around and listen at different times during the day to see when the band is open and to where. But this isn't the only beacon network out there. In the next Ask Dave video, we'll demonstrate the reverse beacon network. Stay tuned. This week's picture is a video I took from my motorcycle on a ride through Dolores Canyon on Colorado Highway 141. It's not as big as the Grand Canyon, but nonetheless is spectacular in its own way. I love this ride. A trip to Gateway and back is a nice day ride on my street bike. The road is uncrowded and you can enjoy the scenery as much as you want. If you liked this video, please share it with your friends. I urge you to subscribe to my channel so that you can get notification of future videos.
There he goes. Everybody has to get their shameless plug in, kind of like we do.
That's right.
Okay, so when did you happen upon your first beacon station, Pat?
Probably, it had to be probably when I first got into HF. Somebody had told me about them, and to be honest about it, now that I think about it, the first beacon I probably ever heard was long before I was a ham, and that was WWV.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, even as a kid,
I had a Yaesu FT101E when I was probably in my 30s, and it was long before I was even a ham. So I was using it for 11 meters, and when I did that, somebody had told me to tune up to 30 megahertz, or to 10 megahertz, 10 megahertz, and if I got right on the edge of it, I could calibrate the radio and get the time at the same time. So that's pretty much, that was the first time. I've known about beacons for a long time. The thing with WWV that's pretty cool, when you listen to the one from, I think it's Nebraska, or Colorado. Colorado's
The one in
thinking.
Colorado, yeah.
When you listen to that one, it gives, a lot of times it'll give you all kinds of information as far as sunspots and everything else.
It is interesting, and it is run by the government, and it does have information on it, and it's a big deal. I've actually toured that station when my wife is from Colorado Springs, and the station is not too far outside of the city, and we were in Colorado, and I had an opportunity when we were still dating to tour that station. It is fascinating, and people can hear it all over the globe. I mean, it's amazing how far that beacon travels. But for ham radio operators, one of the great questions always is the band open? You know, you'll hear people say things on social media, as an example, that may or may not be true. And one of them is there's a certain group of people that will always get on there and say, I was just listening on 40, or I was just listening on 20 meters, and the band's closed. There's no one there. The band's closed. And, you know, these people may or may not have turned their radio on. And so you can't take somebody's word for whether or not the band is closed. And for those people that are tempted to get into that habit of always saying, well, I didn't hear anybody, so the band is closed, I guess I would ask the question, did you throw your call sign out? Because the rest of us can't read your mind, and we may have been there listening, and perhaps you just never opened your mouth, and so we didn't know you were there. So don't just assume that because nobody's talking that the band is not open. This is what these beacon stations are used for. And there is a great website. It's Menolink, MENNOLINK.org. And I would encourage you, if you're a new ham and you're just learning about beacon stations and you're learning about ham radio, take a visit to Menolink.org, and you can check propagation. Well, how do they check propagation? Well, they check propagation using beacon stations, and also using another technology that was popular about 20 years ago called Packet. And at any rate, there are still stations all across the United States of America that are doing Packet, and there are people that are running beacons. And these websites like Menolink check these, and they see whether or not the band is open. And they can tell you, because of the large number of these stations, where the band is open from and where the band is open to. And it's kind of amazing, Pat, because you'll see people that will get on the web and they'll say, hey, you know, so-and-so's on 20 meters, go get him. And you look at that, and that was only 5 minutes ago, and you think, okay, well, he must still be there. And then you turn the radio on, and they're not there. And so basically what that means is that band was open between those two people, but the band is not open to you. And so you can check visually whether a band is open by using websites just like that.
And you could use the clusters too, the DX clusters.
Please talk about that.
The DX cluster is what Jerry was just talking about. It's a place where you can go to see what's being reported. The cluster actually monitors your HF bands, and when a station, if I hear California, or if I hear Japan in there, say a JA2 call, what I do is I go into the DX cluster and I type Japan being heard, JA2 so and so from Akron, Ohio, and you hit enter, and that goes through the cluster and tells everybody that that station's alive, or
Yes.
where it's coming from. Some people call that cheating. Me, myself, I think I don't go to the clusters unless I'm really wanting to do a lot of DXing, because the clusters are cheating. As far as I'm concerned, they're cheating. If you can't
Well,
sit
you know,
there
it's
and
like,
spin that dial a little bit and find somebody to talk to, you got issues.
well, here's the thing, though, my brother. What is one man's cheating is another man's opportunity. Am I right?
Well, I'll buy that, I guess.
It's all in how you look at it. I call it using every tool to your advantage. It's like with my radios. People make fun of my radios because my newest radio was built in 1977, and the other three were built in 1966. So I've got 50-year-old radios, and your pretty waterfall that you guys have on your radios. This is my waterfall right here because I can't see visually anything. I just have to do what Pat just said. I have to tune around with my ears and see what's on the band. But yeah, call it cheating. Here's the thing. This is where I use the DX clusters. I keep my iPhone with me all the time when I'm on the radio, and I've got access to the DX cluster. And what I'll do, if there's a special events station that I really want to talk to, and I'll give you a good example of this. This year, there was a special event station at the Indy 500. Now, I grew up with my grandpa sitting on the front porch of our home in Iowa, listening all day long to the Indy 500.
Yep.
This race would take 8-10 hours to complete. So we would sit out there all day long, and we would just talk and spend time together. It's one of the happiest memories of my life, spending time with my grandpa Collins and listening to that race. And so I really badly wanted to communicate with the Indy 500 station this year. There's a ham station at
I've
the
hit that one
Indianapolis
before.
500. I really wanted to get that card, the QSL card. And so what I did, because I didn't know where to find the Indy 500 station, and they were only on, I talked to them on their very last day. They were on only that last day. So what I did is I used a DX cluster to find the station ending in IMS, which is Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yep.
And so I was able to communicate and get that card because of that DX cluster. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have found that station or not.
Yeah, I had, probably 5 years ago, I had found them and ended up making a contact with them, being that it's Indianapolis really isn't that far from Ohio.
No, you should be able to talk to Indy, and if not, you need to check your antennas.
And so when I had a chance, I made the contact. Some of the cool ones that you can find through the cluster, usually if there's any military or Navy boats or anything like that, those almost always show up in the clusters.
Yes.
And some of the more unique stuff, if somebody's on a DXpedition, those show up there too. Pitcairn, was it? Isn't that where Mutiny on a Bounty's crew ended up? Pitcairn Island down there in the...
Oh, yeah. And there actually is a ham radio operator there, or there was.
I believe there still is.
Was a grandchild or a great-great-grandchild or something of one of the pirates.
Right.
That's the Pitcairn Island.
And we actually had one of our club members actually went to that island and did a DXpedition there.
Really?
And Mel Vi was down there. And he actually did a presentation for it. And that island there's nothing there. And you got a bunch of natives there that are in and around that island, but really there's nobody that lives on it.
All descended from pirates. Arr.
But there is a station and a couple of houses on it, and that's about it. But that's
Isn't
where
that something?
I made that contact once, and I only did it because I recognized his call sign. I recognized Mel's call sign who was operating from down there.
Well, it's kind of interesting because there are some places in the world, as Pat just mentioned, that they don't have any ham radio operators there. And people want to talk to those areas, Those areas are highly sought after, and the only time you're going to get them is when there's a de-expedition. Where can you find out about de-expositions? Well, if you're a member of the ARRL and you get QST magazine, you'll see the DX expeditions every month listed. And you can talk to places in the world, given the opportunity, that you'll not maybe have another chance to talk to in this lifetime anyway, because there are some places these guys go to that there's like a 40-year spread between when one group goes and when the second group goes, where that island or whatever is just silent.
Kind of like the moon.
Well, there's an expedition going on right now. It's not an expedition, but it's a special event station, and I'll try to get the call signed by next week's program. But it's to celebrate the signing of the Antarctica Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty took place back in the 1950s, and basically it was the treaty that allows all of these different nations that have signed on to this treaty to set up a camp or a base in the Antarctic. It might interest you to know that McCarran base, it begins McClellan or McMurdoch.
McMurdoch, that's it.
McMurdoch, and in fact, there was just a ham radio operator. He just left about a month and a half ago, but he was down there for 6 months. These men go down to the Antarctic, and they spend 6 months at a time down there. That's a special place, and you should have seen the pictures and the things that he sent back. Imagine being in the bitterly cold isolation for 6 months at a time. So people don't have an opportunity in ham radio to speak to the Antarctic very often. So when there's a ham radio operator there, we have to take advantage of it. And a good example of a place that many people talk to now, but at one time nobody talked to, is space, which you just brought space up a second ago. Were it not for the ISS, we still wouldn't have an opportunity to talk to any human beings in space. You know, there are satellites we can talk to from here on Earth with our ham radios, but we can actually talk to the space station. And it seems like there's always at least one of the astronauts, Pat, who is a ham radio operator.
Yep. They do that. From what I understand, that's one of the requirements to go up there.
That's awesome.
Because
it gives us people to talk to. Of course, one of these days when we set up a colony, which I had no intention of volunteering to go anywhere, but when some brave souls decide to live on the moon, then we can talk to them with our ham radio operators, because we bounce signals off the moon now, so it'll just be a small matter to go ahead and talk to the colony up there with our Swan 700CX, or in your case, our IC 7300. We'll just fire that baby up and talk to the moon.
Point the antenna out that way and
just point north. It's all good. Well, listen, one of the things coming up is the holiday. So we've been talking beacon stations tonight, but we would be remiss if we did not give everyone some holiday ideas. What with Christmas coming up, of course, it's Hanukkah right now. Happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends, those who are listening. I had one guy today remember that I am of some Jewish descent and said Happy Hanukkah to me. One guy out of everybody I've ever known, but at least somebody remembered. Christmas is coming up and nobody will forget that. So what are some good gift ideas for the hams in your life? And maybe you might want to go ahead and run some video on this at home, or go ahead and record this on your hard drive and leave it somewhere where your wife will find it. But we've got a video on this, Pat. So let's go ahead and run the video. KB9VBR is with us again this week, and he's going to tell us about some holiday gift giving ideas for ham radio operators, whether you are one, just want to gift yourself, or whether or not you have another ham you know, like your Elmer, Pat, who may need a gift. Here you go.
Yeah, I want a 20. I want a 220 radio.
A 220? I'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind, Pat.
1.25 meg. Yep, that'll work.
Okay. It's on my list of things to consider.
Yeah, I'll bet. It's in the mail, huh, Jer?
Yeah. You're listening to the Crooked River Radio. The program is called The World According to Elmer, and Pat and I will be back on the other side of this gift-giving video.
Today on Ham Radio Q&A, my selection of holiday gift ideas. They're guaranteed to please any ham, so please keep watching for more. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. I'm on a mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community, so if this is your first time watching, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Well, so last week over the Thanksgiving holiday, my son was home from school, and while I was retrieving the mail, I spotted a catalog and said, "Oh, look, it's the Christmas wish book." Boy, did his eyes light up, and he wanted to see what I was talking about. Well, then I showed him the old ham radio outlet catalog, and his expression completely turned. Oh, that radio stuff. Well, you get the idea. Sometimes it's hard to get your point across of maybe what you'd like for the holidays. Or maybe you need to shop for a ham and you have no idea what would interest them. Well, never fear, this video is for you. I collected a variety of items from stocking stuffers to the big ticket items that would please just about any ham. Many of these items have appeared in previous videos, so this is a nice recap of some of the things that I found really useful over the last year. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a Tom and Jerry as I go through this year's holiday gift ideas for hams. Starting off the list, I have a few stocking stuffers that I found really handy. First off is Weaver Leather's Throw Bag. Made by the Weaver Leather Company. This 12-ounce bag is filled with steel shot, and it has really a nice supple feel. It's just the right size and weight to get your line up into a tree about 30 feet or so, and it's perfect for hanging those wire antennas. You can use it with paracord or mason line if you want something super lightweight. But I'm going to switch out to a more stretch resistant and lighter Dyneema cord. It may not be cheap, but you're going to get better throws and less snags than you will with paracord. Both of these items are available on Amazon, and links for everything I'm going to discuss today are in the video description below. Another stocking stuffer I find really handy are these RG8X jumpers. They're available in 1 foot and 3 foot lengths. This heavy duty 50 ohm coaxial cable is manufactured and assembled in the US by Cable Experts. I've been using Cable Experts cable for many years, and I find their cable to be very durable and reliable. The connections are highly reliable. The shorter lengths, are like these little 3-footers are perfect to use in the shack to hook up switches, meters, and tuners, while the longer 25-foot runs are great to take out in the field for your next Parks on the Air activation. I usually carry a couple of these little barrel connectors with me, so you can throw a handful of these into the stocking too. Super handy for stringing line together for your HF portable work. And if your ham radio friend hasn't bought new cable in maybe say 10 years or so, then it's time to get them a nice fresh supply. When I bought my Yaesu FT891 transceiver, my intention was to use it in the field, but I also wanted to take care of it, so finding some suitable protection was paramount. The Domke F34L 19-inch protective wrap is made of a padded knit fabric, and it's also got a non-scratch nylon backing. This 19-inch wrap is perfect for smaller HF transceivers like the FT891, or you could use it to wrap a VHF, UHF mobile radio if you plan to take that out into the field. The wraps also work great for cameras, lenses, other electronic devices. There may be similar wraps on the market, but the Domke products are proudly made in the USA, so this is going to be a quality item. And they really are. I've got a Domke camera bag, canvas camera bag that I've used for about 30 years now, and it still works great. A good multimeter is really handy both in the shack and in the field. And a meter is also really helpful, for those household repairs. One meter I like is this Mertec. It's the MK6 digital clamp multimeter with non-contact voltage detect. This auto-ranging meter will test AC-DC voltage, AC-DC current, plus frequency, duty cycle, capacitance, and resistance. And the clamp sensor is also capable of detecting both AC and DC currents. Well, I admit it's no fluke. but it's reasonably good and accurate, and is perfect for simple testing, diagnosing, and also repairs. At a retail price of under $30, it does the job, and it's cheap enough that I can keep an extra one in my toolkit. Every year for my holiday gift list, I like to pick out at least one book from the ARRL. If you want to build a library of resources on amateur radio, the League's books are a solid foundation. In the past, I've recommended the ARRL's handbook, but this year I'm going to give a nod to the updated and expanded antenna book. The 24th edition, released in 2019, is a fundamental guide of covering antenna theory, design, and construction, along with practical treatments and projects. You may never build your own antenna, but the information contained in it will give you the knowledge and understanding of how antennas work. The newest edition also comes two ways, as a limited edition 4-volume box set with that hard slipcase, or as a 1,024-page soft-covered tome. Either way, this guide is going to really amp up your antenna game. A couple amateur radio groups that I participate with throw some really nice holiday parties. And you know what? Our local club had their holiday party just the other day, and the highlight of the event is their white elephant gift exchange. The only rules are, the more obscure and fun the gift, the better, and also the gift really can't cost anything, so the cheaper the better. I received this lovely box emblazoned with the word radio, and it's going to be a high quality item. So when I opened it, sure enough, it was a radio branded water bottle. Yeah, I'm sure this will keep me warm on those cold nights in the shack. All I can say is thank you to Tony. You really know how to spot those oddball items. Let's move on to some bigger ticket items. We looked at quite a few antennas over the last year, and I do have a couple of favorites. Of course, the Wolf River Coils Silver Bullet 1000 was in last year's holiday gift guide, and I do recommend it, so you can all certainly check out that video. But one antenna I think makes perfect gift this season is Chameleons Mcom 2 wire antenna. Basically, the Mcom 2 is the wire components that you'd find in the pricier MPass system, but without the vertical elements. So with the Mcom 2, you can run it as an end-fed antenna, or an inverted L, or even inverted V, or off-center fed dipole. All this versatility at a fraction of the price of their more complete MPass. Plus, it packs up super small and makes it easy to throw into your portable kit. Joe and I have used this antenna with excellent results on a number of occasions, so it's going to make an excellent gift for a ham that really enjoys some portable work. And my gift list wouldn't be complete if I didn't include at least one radio. This year's hottest rig is the handheld Yaesu FT3DR. It's a dual band VHF UHF unit with system fusion and APRS built in. The radio is an improvement to their long-running FT2DR with an ergonomic form factor and a color touchscreen. This handheld's perfect a companion to your shack or vehicle if you've already got the amazing FTM 400 XDR mobile unit. Holiday pricing is in the neighborhood of about $350, and the nice thing is that it works with all of your FT2DR batteries and accessories. If you really want to delve into amateur radio electronics, then one piece of equipment you'll find super useful is an oscilloscope. Over here on the channel, our resident electronics nut, Joe, prefers the Rigel DS1054Z digital oscilloscope. This unit has 50 megahertz of bandwidth, 4 channels, and really it's the preferred unit for schools, businesses, students, and hobbyists. It features an intuitive user interface, so even the O-Scope newcomer will get running with it quickly. Plus the large 7-inch color display has a resolution of 800 by 400 pixels, so it's easy to view all of the channels on the single screen. As we near the end of the holiday gift ideas, there is one more big ticket item that I just have to mention. No list would be complete without an over-the-top, want-it-all type of thing. And this year, it's the TC Teardrops camping trailer. Yes, you've seen this trailer featured in a few of my videos, and really it's the perfect accessory for the ham looking to get away for portable radio adventures. The TC Teardrop trailer sleeps 2 comfortably on the queen-size bed inside, and pop open the hatch in the back for a handy galley kitchen. Perfect for on and off-road use. The trailer can be outfitted with any number of accessories, and will follow you wherever your adventures take you. and add some solar, additional storage up front, and you're going to be totally self-contained. When we bought our trailer, the first thing I said was, hey, no more sleeping in my car at field day. And that's totally the case. What I like about TC Teardrops is that it's light enough that it can be pulled with a 4-cylinder vehicle, like my Subaru Outback. Plus, they're custom built in my hometown here in Wausau, Wisconsin. Models range in price starting at about $5,000. Finally, I'd be totally remiss if I didn't mention my own stuff. KB9 VBR J-pole antenna makes a perfect stocking stuffer for your favorite ham. If you're new to ham radio, this would be the perfect first antenna for VHF, UHF. If the amateur radio hobby is old hat for you, then one of these antennas makes a perfect backup or as a field antenna. You can even put one in your attic to hide it from the homeowners association or protect yourself so you can stay on the air during a thunderstorm. I'm making these antennas in VHF and UHF frequencies, 6 meters all the way up to 70 centimeters. This one I'm holding here, this is my 1.25 meter or the 222 megahertz band antenna, a very popular model. So check those out at my website at www.jpole-antenna.com. Well, there you have it. Some of my favorite holiday items from the last year rolled up into a holiday gift guide for your favorite ham radio operator. All of these gifts will make amateur radio hobby more enjoyable and hopefully spur you to try new things. Links for these items mentioned can be found in the video description below. And also, do you have anything on your holiday wish list that I may not have covered? Please feel free to leave it in the comments below, and we'll continue the conversation down there and add to the list of holiday gift items for hams. For more articles and information, be sure to check out my blog at www.jpole-antenna.com. Like I always say, your support of this channel drives the production of future videos, so there's a few things you can always do for me. Number one, if you like this video, give me that big thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Check out some of the other videos that might be suggested alongside here. And if you haven't already done so and you've watched this far, you hit that subscribe button right now. Pressing subscribe will notify you when future videos are released. Well, that's it for this time. I'm Michael, KB9 VBR. Have a great day, and 73.
And we'd like to thank Michael for the
Michael Claus.
For the use of that video, and also
Michael's a good guy. In fact, Michael has sold me 2 of those J-poles. I have a 2-meter J-pole. Not using it currently, but I have one. And the one I am using that he built me, he told me he built it himself, is my 1.25 meter, a 220 megahertz J-pole, which is out back on my 40-foot Roan pole.
Is that right? You're holding out on me, huh?
Yeah, well, I've got that 220 thing going on. I got interested in 220 because I didn't know anything about it. Imagine my surprise when I went out to my son's house in California, my oldest son, and out there, 2 meters is dead. Where he lives, everything is on 1.25 meters, and my 220 megahertz J-pole that Michael Claus made for me would be very fashionable where my son lives.
I had wondered if you could. I've never had experience building an antenna that's for that band yet. I wondered if you could build a J-pole for that.
You can. It's miniature. It's about a quarter of the size of the 2 meter. Now they make J-poles all the way up to 10 meters, and
yeah, I've seen
bigger
that.
than that. We're talking some tall J-poles. They're a sight to see. Did you see anything on his list that looked like it would suit you for Christmas?
The J-pole.
Besides the J-pole.
I'd like to have that camper too. That was nice.
Which one of the J-poles would you like to have, Pat? Would you like the 2 meter, the 125, or one of the bands?
The 125.
Yeah.
If I was going to get something like that, because my intention is to get a 1.25 meter radio. That's one of the only ones I don't have. I've got an HT that's got it on it, but I can't hear anything on it.
I've got a radio that I picked up at the same time I wanted to get on 220. I had the same situation. It's hard to find radios for 1.25 meters. I wound up with a TYT, and this I'm not this is what I'm going to tell you is not incorrect. It's correct. It's a TYT 90,000. It's 90.
I was looking at those. I was looking at those. I hear the one review I read on those is that they're a little difficult to program.
They're very difficult to program. It's all in Chinglish, the instructions that comes with it. Once you get the hang of it, though, it's easy. But to begin with, yeah, it's a little tough. But I'll tell you this, the radio has great audio, and it has good distance. This radio, I'm in Massillon, with this radio and my J-pole that Michael Claus built for me, I can reach the repeaters in Medina and the repeater in Rittman, and don't have any trouble getting around on it. Plus, I talked to some of the people here in Massillon on Simplex. I've never had any trouble reaching anybody on that radio. That radio is 60 watts.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it works real good. And essentially, the propagation and the way that it operates is pretty much all the same as 2 meters. Not that much difference between the two. But what it does give you is it gives you a band that's quiet. If you've got some people that you like to visit with that you don't want to be interrupted, and so you don't get on the repeater because you don't want to tie it up for the next 2 hours, I recommend 220. If you've got a friend that you spend a lot of time visiting with each week, that's a quiet band. You can pretty much pick wherever you want to go on it, unless you're in California with my son. Then you can't get a word in edgewise on 220. But out here, you're not going to run into other people. So basically, the band is yours, and so it's worthwhile having a 1.25 meter rig, I believe. The one antenna that he had, the POTA antenna, or the portable antenna, I thought that would be useful. Who doesn't need a multimeter? That was a nice multimeter. I like the fact that you could measure voltages without having to plug it in or having to stick your... I always get creeped out when you have to stick your prongs into something electrical. That just doesn't seem right to me, but nevertheless, that was a good one that he had, and that price was very reasonable, I thought. So there's a lot of gift-giving ideas. And I know just what he's talking about when he got his HRO catalog, because I feel the same way.
My eyes get real big too. HRO?
Place up in Talmadge,
yeah.
I like to peruse, just like, I'm a child of the 1960s, and we used to get those wish books from Sears, from Montgomery Ward's, and from J.C. Penney. 3 big catalogs would come in. Imagine this, young people. 3 big catalogs would come in. My brother and sister and I would tear those things apart. We would go through, we'd have pages dog-eared, we'd have stuff circled, we'd have things highlighted. Santa never wondered what we wanted as kids.
I can believe that.
So it's all good. My wife already bought me my ham gift this year. She bought me a couple of very nice ham gifts this year. She's a good woman. I'm not going to give her up to anybody. I'm going to hold on to her. But one of the things that I have needed is I have needed a computer in my shack, because I've never had a computer. My logging is done on a 3-ring binder that I got from the Dollar General, and an ink pen that I stole from the bank. It says Huntington right on it. And I got that thing around here somewhere. And so this year she got me a computer for my shack, and we were able to take advantage of the sales because we gave each other a list of things that we wanted, so that we wound up getting what we wanted to get. When you get to our age, you don't want to be opening up a bunch of stuff you're never going to use. Goodness knows I have all the neckties that I need. I don't need underwear, and I don't need a new pair of slippers. So this is a much better gift. And so don't be afraid, guys, to leave, and gals, to leave your hubby or your wife a hint or two as far as something that they could buy you for the shack this year that would make you happy.
Well, that the idea of the Christmas list has been in my family for, God, ages.
Is that right?
Yeah, I never knew what my kids wanted for Christmas. And especially after I divorced their mother, I had no idea.
I'm sorry, it's not funny.
I got
But
the
the way
kids
you
a
said it was
couple
funny.
times a week, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But so what ended up happening is it would get Christmas time, and I wouldn't know what to buy.
Yeah.
So I came up with a brilliant idea of, hey, we'll just do Christmas lists. And this wife is kind of, and her family kind of fights the idea of it. But I think even she's starting to see how handy it comes in. You know, this way,
Why not get
you're
some-
not going to, I don't want to take and, if I put something on a Christmas list, I'm not limiting you to that. That's never been that way with us. But it just gives you a general idea of what we're thinking we'd like to have for Christmas.
Well, in our house, we don't like to throw money around. And so what would be the point of getting something that's just going to go back anyway?
Exactly.
And besides that, who has the patience and the endurance to go through the returning process? So what I would do with the gifts in the past is I would just throw the ones I didn't want in the top of my closet. And then when next Christmas came around, I'd wrap them back up and give them back to the people that gave them to me to begin with. This is called regifting.
Yeah, that's regifting.
So if you've never considered that process, you're welcome. Yeah, just give it back. You didn't want the thing anyway, right? No, it's better to give somebody something that they want. So I like your Christmas list idea. I think that's a keeper right there. Everybody put out a Christmas list. I think we have exhausted this program, my friend.
Yeah, I'm exhausted, all right.
Appreciate your advice.
Coming up with these Christmas lists is something else.
Maybe we'll find some more things to add on that Christmas list for the next week's program. I'll see what I can come up with. And if you see something that jumps out at you this week, Pat, make a note of it, and we'll get a picture of it. We'll get a slideshow together, and we'll show some of the things maybe that we would like for Christmas, and we could throw them in there also next time around.
Yeah, I've been looking at that Bridgecom rig too, the 220 thing that they've got.
That's a good radio.
This Talmadge store is fibbing through their catalog, or their online catalog, and and when I first started looking at it, it said it was in stock, and you could, but if you wanted to pick it up, you had to pick it up November 30th.
So what does that mean, Pat?
So what that tells me is it's not in stock.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption.
When it says that it would ship the next day, and it was in stock, but you couldn't pick it up until November 30th, and something seems a little off there, doesn't it?
You can
Either
have
they
that,
don't
but
want
you can't have that.
either they don't want company. You never know. This world has gotten strange.
Pat Morrow is our Elmer. N8OQP. I'm Jerry Sorensen, KG8RRY. Blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in this week. I hope you'll join us again next Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, or pretty close. And we'll have another The World According to Elmer for you right here on Crooked River Radio. In the meantime, have a great night. 73, everyone.
7-3, y'all.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. See you again soon.
Welcome to the Crooked River Radio Network. You can find us online at crookedriverradio.com, Live 365, Roku, Radio Garden, or just tell Alexa to play Crooked River Radio on Live 365. You can also find us on